the Rambler Network.
Hello, welcome back to Casablanca. In this episode, being episode 90, which is a special episode, as it usually is, I'm covering Rocky Creed, which is a 9-movie franchise. Can you believe it? I didn't realize, because I obviously I knew there was a lot of movies. I for some reason I didn't realize there was 9, and when I went to I didn't realize it was 9 until I went to go find the movie posters for the title, for the title card thing, and I was like, wait, there's 9? Oh, okay. Which is crazy that I didn't realize that, because I'm a huge fan of the Rocky series. I have the Rocky 1 through 6 on Blu-ray, and then I have Rocky 1 through 3 on Blu-ray. This is me coming back to edit. Obviously I meant Creed 1 through 3 on Blu-ray. And I actually saw all three Creed movies in theaters when they came out. I'm a huge fan. And what's kind of interesting is people always, they dismiss them as they're just boxing movies. They're movies about boxing. And I have to disagree. They are not movies about boxing. They're movies about a boxer. There is a difference. In fact, Rocky 5 doesn't even contain boxing. Kind of. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. It doesn't have a traditional, opponent in the ring. The boxing happens on the street, but I'll get to that. So, starting with Rocky 1, which is a 1976 movie directed by John G. Alvidsen, written by Sylvester Stallone, starring Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, Burt Young, Carl Weathers, and Burgess Meredith. If you notice anything about that, you'll notice something. There's a reason I actually chose. There is a reason I chose Rocky and Creed as the 90th episode. It's the same reason I chose The Karate Kid as the 80th episode. They're actually both The Karate Kid and Rocky were both directed by John G. Alvidsen. And that's why I've noticed a lot of people saying that they have similar vibes. Both movies have a similar feel. They're like underdog stories with music montages, the training montages with epic music, and different story beats and stuff, the feel of the story and the world and the characters and everything. They feel similar. And I don't know if it's entirely because it's the same director, but both have the same director. Just because they have the same director doesn't necessarily mean they're going to feel the same. Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz, exact same director, the exact same year, 2 totally different movies. So, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I just thought I'd point it out, and I've always known that. I've been a huge fan of both series. I actually also have the Karate Kid movies on Blu-ray. I bought a big box set of all of them, including the Jaden Smith one. Well, now I'm going to have to get a new one because they just released a new Karate Kid movie. So, yeah. Anyway, so Sylvester Stallone actually wrote the script. He wrote it in 3 days, and he was inspired by the Chuck Wepner and Muhammad Ali fight. And he actually refused to sell unless he could play Rocky himself. It's it kind of mirrors the film's underdog story. Basically, he's a small-time boxer and a debt collector living in Philadelphia, and he gets a once-in-a-lifetime shot at the heavyweight champion Apollo Creed, and something that I've always noticed, and I've loved this. I don't see anyone else talking about this. This is funny. Whenever Apollo Creed sees his name, and he goes, so Rocky's nickname is the Italian Stallion, but Creed calls him the Italian Stallion, and he says it like over and over again. So it wasn't like he misspoke once. He like keeps calling him the Italian Stallion. But like Rocky, Sylvester Stallone has actually talked about wanting to do like a prequel show, maybe like a straight to streaming prequel show series, maybe a movie. And when I heard that, I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they got me interested in watching it, and then I watched it again, and I realized that actually would make sense because Rocky already kind of feels like a sequel in a way, because like you're coming into this, like the very first movie opens and everything's established. Everyone knows each other. The like Rocky already knows Adrian, and there's a story. There's a story going there. And like his boss, Tony Gazzo, he's a loan shark. And it's obvious by the way that he interacts with Rocky that they've got a history, because, you know, the stereotype with loan sharks, you know, they can't be trusted, they're evil people. But Tony is actually really nice. And yeah, he gets on to Rocky for not doing what he says. He's supposed to break the guy's thumbs. Rocky didn't break the guy's thumb. But I figured, you know, he breaks his thumb, he gets laid off and he can't work. And that shows Rocky's a good guy. And then Tony's like, well, I mean, you don't do what I say, it makes me look weak. But he does help him out. Like, he gives him advice. He actually loans him money. Loans him money to go on a date with Adrian. Loans him money to train for boxing. He actually goes to his boxing matches. And so, like, how did he get that trust from him? Like, I it's something I never really thought about. And whenever I'd seen this movie 100 times, whenever I'd seen Stallone saying that he wants to do a prequel, and even then I was like, well, why are you doing a prequel for? And every time I've seen it since then, I went in with that prequel mindset. Like, yeah, it would actually make sense. There's a world built here. This is a pre-existing world. And it would be really nice to see this, like the story before the story. And actually, that's kind of like the best kind of story. Like, this doesn't feel like it's made for the movie. It's like we're witnessing these events happening. It's not happening for our benefit. Does that make sense? I don't know. It makes sense to me. Like, we just happen to be witnessing the world happening, these events happening. So, but anyway, Creed wants to have an underdog fight him on I think it was supposed to be for the bicentennial of the forming of the United States. And so he's like, they have the fight, and Rocky, there's a scene like near the fight when it's like a speech. Like, you basically really had to listen, because it's like slowly panning in on him while he's laying down. He's kind of mumbling, you know, how Sylvester Stallone talks. I don't even think, you know, Adrian could even hear him. She might have been asleep. He was just talking like this. He's talking about, like, it doesn't matter if he wins. He just has to go. And hit to him for himself. He just wants to go the distance, because no one's ever gone the distance with Creed. And so yeah, like famously he loses at the end, but it doesn't matter because he goes the distance. Whenever the bell ring, I mean the in bell dings, and everyone's waiting for the results, he doesn't care. He's gone the distance. He's screaming for Adrian. And I want to talk about one of my favorite characters. One of my favorite fictional characters is Adrian, and yeah, like she starts off like really quiet and shy, and like she's been picked on her whole life. You can tell, especially by her brother Paulie, who, funny enough, is one of my least favorite characters in fiction because he's like designed to not be likable. He has no likable attributes at all. He's just overall unlikable. But anyway, one of my favorite scenes of the movie is when she confronts him and she's like, I'm not stupid, or everything she says. He goes on and he's like, oh, everyone's out to get me. Like, no, Paulie, you did this to yourself. But that was the first Rocky. And then in 1979, Rocky 2 came out. And it actually starts immediately after the first fight. This one was directed by Stallone. And it basically has the same cast. It picks up right after the first fight. Apollo Creed wants a rematch. So you would think it's basically a remake of the first one. But it's not. It's not. It's definitely not. Rocky's struggling with fame. Also commercial failure. Adrian has a health scare. There is something that happened in the first movie that I never really thought about until this time. There's a scene with Rocky's boss, Tony Gatto. When he's going out, he's telling him about he's going on a date with Adrian, and the driver, he's like, "Oh, she's that R word, isn't she? You know what you do? You take her to the zoo. You take her to the zoo. They like the zoo." And then Rocky gets mad, as he should, because that's messed up. And it's something I didn't realize until this time watching it. In Rocky 2, where does he propose to Adrian? The zoo. But yeah, basically this one is kind of the same. For like fight wise, it's basically the same, except this time Rocky wins. But story wise, it furthers Rocky and Adrian's story, and that's, I think, the more interesting part. In all of these movies, the story itself is usually more interesting than the fight. And in this one, he proposes, they get married, they have a kid. And, yeah, she has a health scare and recovers, just in time. And then he fights Apollo again and wins. And then in 1982, Rocky 3, directed by Stallone, written by Stallone, starring Stallone, and starring the same people, except now adding Mr. T as Clubber Lang. And it's the first time he has a different opponent. And at first time I ever saw this movie, I thought, oh, Apollo's not even going to be in here. And then remember, whenever Rocky and Lang are, they're about to fight, and then they have Apollo come on and say a word to both of them. I'm like, oh, he's doing a quick cameo appearance, nice. And then it turns out Apollo's gonna train Rocky for the rematch with Lang. And yeah, Mr. T was a great opponent. He was just nonstop arrogance, and it was so great to see. It's so fun. He's such a fun character. But it's the first real emotional scene in the franchise. I mean, there's been emotional scenes in the movie before, like I said, the scene when Adrian confronts Paulie. But the first real big emotional scene is when Mickey dies suddenly, and Rocky feels guilty. But Apollo comes back to train him. and of course he beats Lang at the end. I don't think he loses anymore after this until the sixth movie. And then 1985, you get Rocky 4. Uh, Basically the same cast as before, except minus Burgess, obviously, and now also including Dolph Lundgren. I've actually just realized I've never heard his name said out loud. He's basically Ivan Drago. So this is probably the most 80s movie ever because mostly because of the whole Cold War thing. It's like it almost feels like US propaganda, like in a way. It's like over the top. Especially Apollo's death scene. Like it's like over the top, like we're going to America, like and then like whenever he does go to was it Siberia? Yeah, he goes to train in Siberia, and like I don't know, it feels like propaganda, but it's like the good kind, if that's a thing. I don't know, but yeah, Drago is like his toughest opponent ever, like because he killed Apollo Creed, and then he almost dies. It actually is the opponent that officially gives him brain damage at the end. Uh, well, technically at the beginning of Rocky 5, 1990, returning director John G. Avildsen. I struggle with that name always. Also written by Stallone. Up till now, all these movies have been written by Stallone. Also starring Stallone and everyone else, but including Sage Stallone, Sylvester's actual son, and Tommy Morrison as Tommy Gunn. And this one is considered the weakest entry, but I actually think it's one of my favorites because its sole purpose is just to further their story. Rocky and Adrian's story, this movie literally just exists to further the story. Like, there's no grand opponent that he has to fight. Like, how do you top Ivan Drago? You can't. And so, like, he basically takes on a protege, Tommy Gunn, and he's betrayed by him. Tommy becomes, like, world champion, and Tommy confronts him at the end, and he goes, it's like, my ring's outside, and they fight in the street at the end. And a lot of people hate that, but I like that. I think that's brilliant. It changes it up a little bit. But yeah, the movie took it took a 16-year hiatus and came back in 2006 with Rocky Balboa. It was directed by Spielberg. Can you imagine if Steven Spielberg directed one of these? He's directed by Sylvester Stallone, written by Sylvester Stallone, starring Stallone. This is starting to get repetitive. Also, Burt Young, Antonio Tarver, and Milo Okay, I literally watched a video before this on how to pronounce his name. Milo Ventimiglia, that guy. You all know who he is. He's famous. So Rocky's older. He's widowed because Adrian passed away between movies. And he's running a restaurant named after her. A computer simulation predicts that he could have beaten the current champ, whose name is... Oh, I wrote it down. Mason Dixon, I believe. And he does not. He loses. But this movie proves that he still has some good speeches left in him. There's that famous, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about all of that. Yeah, that scene. It feels like the perfect final chapter. Until 2014, when we got Creed. Directed by Ryan Coogler, written by Aaron Cavillon. Nope. Written by Aaron Covington, and starring Michael B. Jordan, Sylvester Stallone, and Tessa Thompson. This is the first entry not written by Sylvester Stallone. It was a brilliant revival and reinvention. Basically, the whole premise is that Apollo Creed had an illegitimate son named Adonis, and this is him trying to become a boxer, and he has Rocky train him. It has a whole new feel, which is great. I love the old movies. They have a great look and feel to them, but they work for their movies. If they had tried to keep the same look and feel for the Creed movies, I don't think it would have worked so well. They did the right thing by keeping, it's in the same universe, but it feels like its own thing. It just happens to have Rocky in it. And 2018 is the one that I think is when people start to like really pay attention to it, because the premise of it directed by Stephen Caple Jr., written by Stallone. Now he's back. Starring Michael B. Jordan, Sylvester Stallone, Tessa Thompson, and Dolph Lundgren. Again, I can't pronounce that. Ivan Drago comes back, and this time he has a son, Victor Drago, and they fight. And it's about redemption, and it's actually a really good premise. When I heard the premise, when they announced it, that it was Adonis fighting Ivan Drago's son, I'm like, oh, that is the best premise ever. And I really liked it. I mean, I can say that about all of these, so like, there's no point in me saying I like this one. Like, I like them all. There's not any of these I'm like, this one was the weak one. With Creed 3, there were rumors of what it was going to be about, and I liked the direction that I heard they were going. Basically, because, he fought Ivan Drago's son in the second one. In the third one, he was fighting Clubber Lang's son. And this time, because Mr. T became a Christian in real life, I think he's an ordained minister now, so Clubber Lang was going to be a pastor in real life, and he was going to try to talk his son down. And, like, Clubber Lang and Rocky were going to, like, team up or something. And I'm like, okay, that actually is kind of interesting. I like that. But the direction they went instead completely takes Rocky out of it. It's the first Rocky movie without Rocky. And to the point where, like, this is no longer Rocky's franchise. Like, it hasn't been for the last two movies. And now he's fully passed on the torch. Like, I don't think Rocky's even mentioned at all in this movie. And yeah, I think that's actually probably for the best, because now, like, Adonis is, like, completely out of the shadow of Rocky. And it's like he's got his own story to tell. And I think it's really good. Like, it shows that the character can stand on his own. And it was probably one of my favorite movies in the whole franchise. Like, the fight at the end is really interesting. It has like an emotional depth to it, not just, oh, his father killed my father, like, but like Victor Drago is in this movie, and like they get along, like, because like he didn't kill Apollo Creed, he's just the son of the guy that did, and so like they get along in this one. And yeah, this time it's like a childhood friend that like felt betrayed, and there's like some weight to it. And the final fight at the end, like, that's probably the most unique fight in the whole franchise. Like, it's not just a straightforward grounded swinging at each other. It almost becomes kind of like an anime style fight where like the audience goes away and there's like they're in like a shadowland, and like things pop up. There's like a jail cell pops up, and it's more metaphorical than literal, but like it works like in this movie. Like, there are talks of a Creed 4, which, considering that Rocky just kept going, it would make sense for Creed to keep going. But the way that this one ended, I actually kind of hope this is the end, because like everyone has a happy ending, especially that last scene with their daughter, and like in the ring. Like, I was like, okay, that was kind of an adorable ending. Just end it here. Don't keep going. Just keep it here. Keep it here. Something I also noticed while watching this, that ever since the 70s, there's been at least one Rocky movie released each decade. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and now the 2020s, there's been a Rocky movie released each decade. So if they do Creed 4, wait till 2030? I don't know. Have him mentor the next generation and just keep it going. 2040, have that person mentor the next. I don't know. But yeah, like I have read somewhere during my research that I think in 2013, John Avildsen actually wanted to do a Rocky Karate Kid crossover, and the only reason it didn't happen is Ralph Macchio was against it. And I think that was probably for the best, because like those two, like they feel similar, but they're not similar enough to cross over. Like, how would you cross that over? Apparently, the premise was that uh, Ralph, apparently, Daniel's daughter, which this is before Cobra Kai, like they like before they he can before he canonically had a daughter, they were going to say his daughter and Milo, whatever, how do you pronounce his name? They, Rocky's son in the movies. So basically, Rocky's son and Daniel's daughter get together and open a dojo. That was the whole premise. And Ralph Macchio was like, yeah, no, that's dumb. So they didn't do it. And I think that's probably for the best. I'm glad they didn't do that. Man, any episode on Rocky would not be complete without talking about the Rocky Steps at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. It's become like a rite of passage. You can't go to Philadelphia without running up the steps. I would kind of want to go there. I would not make it up to the top. I already know that. Something funny. The statue in Rocky 3, that it's there's a statue that, made to honor Rocky in Rocky 3. It was an actual statue, and they actually have it there on display. Originally, it was at the top of the stairs, and they moved it to the bottom. In Creed 2, you actually see Ivan Drago and his son Victor walk past it, and that's like the actual location. It's like, speaking of that scene, it was actually kind of, considering like the weight of like that character and like how far they've come, it was actually kind of eerie watching him stand in at the top of the stairs. So like there has been some controversy with the franchise in recent years, mostly not from like public backlash, but like I guess from like a legal standpoint, because obviously, as I pointed out, Stallone wrote like almost every movie, so he has like partial ownership of the franchise. And they just the makers, like the people behind it above Stallone, they've been talking about doing a Drago movie centered on Ivan Drago, mostly on the the backstory of him. Um, it was met by criticism by Stallone. He says that the producers have been exploiting his characters while trying to keep him out of the creative team. So initially, Stallone was very much against it because he was out of the loop on that. They did not go to him and say, hey, we're going to do this. And so, like, Dolph actually had a sit-down discussion with him, and says they have not officially greenlit anything. It was mostly just discussions. Stallone later stated that he has since discussed the potential movie, so there could potentially be a Drago standalone movie coming soon. Currently, where it stands is Dolph has said in January 2024 that the studio is choosing to prioritize Creed, but the project is still in development with the script being written, and the story is now not expected to be a backstory. It's currently expected to be, it's supposed to center around, because, okay, so in Creed 2, it showed that Ivan and Victor live in the Ukraine. In fact, they specifically live in Kyiv, which is the capital, which was very heavily bombed by Russia. And so the current plot revolves around Ivan and Victor leaving that and moving to the US. So that I don't see no reason why that won't be controversial, a movie. So I have a feeling that's not going to be made. And there is talks that Creed 4 is currently being made. It says that he would like to work with Jonathan Majors again. So Stallone has publicly stated that he would love to do a 7th Rocky movie, like separate Rocky movie, like an official Rocky 7, and have it be like an epilogue story. However, there is currently a dispute over the rights of the franchise, so it doesn't look like Rocky himself is going to be on in the movie. In fact, at the beginning, before Creed 3 came out, there was speculation, and I honestly thought the film would open with like a news report saying famous boxer Rocky Balboa has passed away. I thought there was going to be some news report like that at the beginning of Creed 3, and then like the first few minutes be like Adonis like dealing with that, like going to the funeral and like being depressed for a little bit and then moving on with the rest of the story. No, like I said, like Rocky wasn't even mentioned. I don't think Rocky was mentioned at all in the movie. So like it kind of leaves the door open for there to be more projects with him because Stallone is still alive. And September 2024, Stallone said that he was continuing work on the series, the prequel series that I mentioned, and the plot centers on a younger Rocky, Adrian, and Paulie. And finally, there is supposed to be a Creed spin-off series, so it's a spin-off of a spin-off. There's one of them is an anime series, there's a live-action series, and there's a project around the daughter of Adonis and Bianca called, apparently, I don't know if this article is saying the name of the series or saying the name of the daughter, but it's Amara Creed. It just said, okay, the line is, and a project centered around the daughter of Adonis Creed, the daughter of Adonis named Amara Creed. And it says that these projects are confirmed to be in development. So this is not the end of the franchise. This is actually just the beginning of the franchise. They are getting ready to really expand the Rocky franchise in big ways. So, in a few years, I might have to do a sequel to this episode. And cut.
The Rambler Network.